Hello, welcome to tomorrow again. I wanted to tell you guys about something that happened to me when I was younger, something that I think is a little interesting, and I just wanted to share this experience with you. It's story time. Went to East St. Louis, Illinois with my grandmother and with my sister, who's about 2 years older than me. Um, we went there, and my grandmother was kind of fretting a little bit whether or not we should stay in a hotel, whether we should stay with my aunt. She was just sort of going back and forth and back and forth. Well, I was excited. I didn't care where we stayed because I had heard or read that the Jackson Five were going to be in St. Louis, which is a bridge away. Literally cross a bridge from East St. Louis over to St. Louis, Missouri, and not too far from that was the Kiel Auditorium, and that's where the Jackson Five were performing at the time. Well, a friend of a friend worked at the Kiel Auditorium and said that they would try to, once we paid for the tickets and got there, they would try to find a way for us to get backstage. Oh my goodness, you guys don't understand. Back in those days, you didn't see your favorite groups the way you do now. There was no social media, there was no cable at that time. There was no way to really have that much visual access of your favorite singing group. And for me, it was the Jackson Five. Probably for most girls my age, the Jackson Five. Were just the best. I mean, it didn't get any better than that. And if you had the chance to actually meet them, oh my goodness, that was Christmas, New Year, Thanksgiving, and birthdays all wrapped up in one thing. Well, my aunt wanted to go to the drive-in that particular night, and we had never been to the drive-in, and the way my grandmother was thinking, wouldn't it make more sense to go to the drive-in? You get a new experience of watching a movie outside on that big screen. And she just went on and on how great that would be. And we'll go to McDonald's. And wait, McDonald's back in those days it was on a whole nother level. I mean, you only went to McDonald's maybe once or twice a year. We didn't go that much. So that was a special treat. And she, had said, we'll go to McDonald's, we'll go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, get some food, and we'll watch a movie. I don't even remember what the name of the movie that was playing. I don't have a clue, but I remember wanting so badly to see the Jackson Five, especially Michael Jackson. To go back a little bit, a couple of weeks before we went to East St. Louis and before the Jacksons were, they were the Jackson Five back then, before they were to perform at the Kiel Auditorium, I had picture. It was my third grade picture. I'll never forget it. I had on a green, sort of almost cow neck type design dress with some stripes going down. And I sent a picture to Michael Jackson, to his the fan club. I thought it was going to Michael Jackson. I didn't know. I think it was the fan club. It was some sort of P.O. box that the studio had put out for the fans to correspond with Michael. And so I gave it to my sister, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, the proper address. And my sister walked down to the end of the block and she mailed it. To this day, I wonder if she really mailed my picture. I'm going to have to assume that she really did, but I never heard back from Michael Jackson. Go figure. It was a fan club type of thing, sort of promotional, or to give the fans a sense of being able to communicate with Michael Jackson or the Jackson Five, whichever Jackson that you liked at the time. So back to East St. Louis. It was getting late. I was getting tired, and yeah, they were scheduled to perform. I think it was about 8 o'clock. Well, whatever time they were scheduled to perform, I knew at that time it should be getting dark. So I kept sort of looking outside to make sure we had enough time to get there. My grandmother wasn't having it. She was not having it. I don't think she really necessarily wanted to go to the drive-in either. I think she just didn't understand how important it was for me and for my sister to see the Jackson Five. So she said, well, it's about, I don't know, 7 o'clock. Come on, let's get in the car. we're gonna I'm gonna take care of some things. I'm thinking, yeah, this is it. We're on our way. We're on our way to see the Jackson Five. Yay! We even went up on the bridge. I can't remember which bridge it is. Maybe the Popular Street Bridge. We were up on the bridge and I could see the Kiel Auditorium. And I just knew Michael Jackson was in that building. And I just knew that my grandmother was going to surprise us by taking us to see the Jackson Five. I was hyped. So I looked at my sister. She looked at me. And we're like, yes, we're going to finally see the Jackson Five. Well, my sister wasn't into Michael. She was more into Jermaine and and Jackie. I was into Michael, not Marlon, Michael. I don't know if it's because he was the youngest. I'm not quite sure what my fascination and awe of Michael was, but I just knew he would be my husband one day, and I just knew he knew I existed. So my grandmother went to the store. She picked up a few things and we headed back over the bridge, and we didn't stop at the Kiel Auditorium. And I looked at my grandmother. I'm like, I thought we were going. I thought we were going. I have to laugh to keep from crying, you guys, because that seriously affected my life. We never got a chance to see the Jackson Five. Instead, we went to the drive-in, which I don't know. To this day, I don't like drive-ins because it reminds me of my missed chance of seeing Michael. Now, to add insult to injury, the person who worked at the Kiel that could get us backstage called my aunt's house and said, why didn't I thought the kids were coming to see the Jackson Five. I arranged for them to, I made arrangements to get them backstage. Why didn't you come where I was and do that? Why didn't you do that? And of course, my aunt had to let me and my sister know that phone conversation took place. I would have probably been better off not even knowing that. But yeah, that's my quick story time on how I almost met Michael Jackson. In my lifetime, I have almost met Barack Obama, and I made a video about that a couple years ago. I literally made contact with Barack Obama. Wasn't introduced to him, but I did have contact with him several times. I met gospel singer Mahalia Jackson. I've met some important people in my life. I almost met President Nixon. He was in a parade and he looked my way and pointed at me, and I just waved and waved. I didn't know who he was, but I knew the parade was all about him. I knew the motorcade was about him. I've met some people, you guys, but no one that could come close to the Jackson Five or Michael Jackson. So I have one more story to tell you guys. It's a little bit creepy. That same year, my grandmother would have like little side jobs, little odd jobs, cleaning people's houses, and she would take me with her. This had to have been summertime because I went to work with my grandmother, and usually in the summer, every summer I would go to work with her, and she would tell me to sit somewhere, and I would sit there the entire time that she would clean house. And this particular house, it always made me feel strange. Well, when you first come in the house, and I'll insert a picture up here, that house is still there, but there's an add-on. That white part of the house that you see, that wasn't there back in the 60s. Well, this lady had a room way to the west of the house, and everything in the room, everything was violet. The quilt, the chair, she had a little vanity set in there, and it looked like it belonged to one of her children, one of her daughters back in the days. It was probably back in the 30s, maybe. I don't know, but it was pretty antique looking and in pristine shape. And I would go in that room, and I think she had a little etch-a-sketch in there. I don't know who that belonged to, but it was in there, and I would twirl the little buttons around and try to make things, anything to get time moving along. And I would try to be as quiet as possible. Usually the lady wasn't there. It was just me and my grandmother cleaning and vacuuming and dusting and shining up this lady's house once a month. Well, this particular day, I remember the lady had coffee in a percolator, and I still remember the way it smelled. The aroma was just beautiful. I never knew what coffee tastes like, but it smelled perfect. And she had a little bitty tray of cinnamon rolls, homemade cinnamon rolls. And she left a note and said, "Please take some." Well, my grandmother said, "Well, we'll wait. When I'm finished, I'll give you a cinnamon roll." Oh, that whole day. And I'm telling you, this was a 6 to 8 hour work day. Sometimes I would roam around the rest of the house. Sometimes I would stay downstairs and sit on the steps while my grandmother dusted and swept. But this particular day, I went into another room. I walked up the stairs, and I could tell someone was up there. I just could feel it. So I was very careful. Look, I was bored. I didn't want to just sit on those steps. So I went up the steps, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. I didn't realize that there was actually someone in one of the bedrooms. I just thought, I just felt them. I didn't understand how all this worked. Well, as I looked in the room, I just sort of peeked in the room, and I saw an older man, looked like he was about 70 or 80 years old, and he just sort of rose up, sat up in the bed, and he just kind of looked at me, and he raised his hand up. I don't know if he waved or if he pointed. I don't really remember. And when I tell you, I swirled around, headed right back down those stairs, and I told my grandmother that I saw a monster. I saw like the boogeyman in that room. She said, "No, that's not, there's no boogeyman not in that room anymore. He's in a nursing home, so you didn't see him." And I thought to myself, yes, I did. And you guys, this same house is the same house that once I was in the basement when I saw what looked like an elf. No one can tell me otherwise. I know what I saw. Every time I went to her house with my grandmother, I avoided that room like the plague. This was what looked like a solid apparition. Or maybe he was really there, but my grandmother said he wasn't. He had already been put in a nursing home. And I've never known what to make of that. Several other times I went to visit throughout the summer. I went with my grandmother to clean, and I avoided the room. I just never looked in there. I never heard anybody walking around. I never heard any more about it, but it just really, really creeped me out. You guys, let me know in the comments section if you've had any experiences like that, any paranormal experiences or possible paranormal experiences that you'd like to talk about. That's something I had to get off my chest. I don't think I've ever told anyone about that. I really don't. But just to back up a little bit with the story time, my grandmother collected her pay for the day. By that time, the lady, I'll call her, I won't say her name, by that time, she'd come back and she offered us a ride. "Did you want to ride home, or are you going to take the bus?" My grandmother said, "No, we'll take the bus." And I kind of pulled my grandmother's dress, the tail of her dress, and said, "Don't forget those cinnamon rolls." And she said, "Oh, don't, no, don't, you don't need that. No, 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 no." And so the homeowner said, the lady said, "Oh no, she can have cinnamon rolls. No, those are for you. No, take those." And my grandmother had this sense of pride. "No, no, 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 no. We're okay. She doesn't need that." And I thought, yes, I do. You promised me the cinnamon rolls. I need them. So I never got those cinnamon rolls, and that's bothered me for over, I don't know how many years. Lots of years. You guys, I just thought I'd tell you a few story times just to get your mind off of some of the things that you might be going through. And I really, really hope that life treats you kind. I hope you don't start to feel overwhelmed by what's going on in the world, and try to keep yourself balanced. That's the important thing. I can't stress that enough. Try to be balanced. Well, you guys, if you'd like to, you can thumbs up this video. You can share it with whoever you want to share it with, and you can subscribe to this channel if you haven't already subscribed. And of course, all of you that have subscribed already, you know I'm grateful. Thank you so much. Also, if you'd like to, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm tomorrow again, 1111. Feel free. You are welcome to follow me. And I'm sending you well wishes and all the positive energy that you can take. And that's a lot of positive energy. Wishing you the best of the best. Thanks.